Welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from fresh perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 285, Making New Traditions. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello, dear friends, and welcome. Welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host, and I'm here today in my home studio in Orlando, Florida. And friends, I am happy to have you along this journey we call life. And this is one of my favorite months of the year because we are celebrating Christmas. There's a beautiful spiritual energy coming in during this time of year, especially because there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of joy. Yes, there's a lot of spending as well. But anyway, welcome to the show and welcome to December. Wow, this is Monday, December 4th. This is the first Monday in December. And yes, today is a great day. I want to do a shout out to our listeners in Dallas, Texas. Boom, baby. Dallas, welcome. Thank you for listening. And as always, we are honored. We are blessed that you're joining us for the show today. And thank you for sharing this too with your friends and family. And I can't tell you what it means when I hear whole families are now being supported by the show. So those folks, friends in Dallas, thank you. We love you. We bless you. And again, if you know friends, if you know family that can benefit, please share. Please subscribe on YouTube. And I also wanted to mention that on YouTube, we decided to go to audio only. In receiving feedback from some of our listeners, they're mostly just listening while they work. So if there's something different you need on the YouTube channel, let us know. Also hit subscribe. Our subscribers had slowed down a little bit. So I know there's so many ways to listen on so many platforms. We're real blessed by that and the great work our producer does to make that happen. So today is, again, Monday, December 4th, and this is the Authentic Spiritual Journey, show 285. Show 285. And the title of today's show is Making New Traditions. Making New Traditions. This is a really important topic to me, especially at this holiday time, because a lot of us, well, I'm going to speak for myself. It's important to me because for so much of my adult life and professional career, it was either quite difficult to travel at the holidays, or even when I could travel, it felt important to honor my place in my life, my traditions with my immediate family, which is very small. But it felt important to have my own Christmas and make my own traditions so that for my family, I could make new memories and new traditions. So in most families at this time of year, there are a lot of traditions. There are a lot of what I will call unspoken expectations. And a lot of family traditions carry with them a pretty big weight in our consciousness to fulfill. And some of those traditions, I'm sure, are very positive. The number one thing, however, that I hear in my work around the holidays is the difficulty it is for people to connect, the difficulty for people to remain healthy, the difficulty for people to remain in their adult realized self, because when they're with family and other things, they tend to feel, pulled back into the dysfunction of the past and what I'll call the family of origin, family system. In other words, the thing that made us who we are today, we kind of snap back into that emotional reality. And what I've discovered from our shows and from our listeners and feedback is that the pretty consistent theme with all of us, myself, I include my producer in this, I include all of you, my listeners in this, the thing that ties us together is the desire to grow, to prosper, and evolve, right? We have a desire as people, as individuals, as spiritual beings to grow, prosper, and evolve. That said, as we are trying to grow, prosper, and evolve, we are learning new ways of being. And we're growing out of the old ways and into a brand new way. This is our goal. So the idea, tradition, the idea of a tradition is something you do every year. And so it probably sounds funny to say, make a new tradition. But what you start now with your family, if you have children especially, those children are every year going to think about those things as the holidays come back around. I think this became important for me after I became a parent, for sure, because I wanted traditions that were full of love, full of laughter, full of meaning, and not things that were based on how many gifts you got or how many things you could run around and do, or, how much you could drink, or, things like that. And many of those things were a part of my childhood traditions. So in my process of making new traditions, what I learned is that sometimes it takes a great deal of thought. It takes time. It takes some effort to think about, well, what would really support me during this time? Because what I'm trying to do is rise up and out of the old way of doing things. And what's been so interesting is in that whole process I've been in, and I've been in it for years. We've talked about it a couple times on the show during this season, but what's been interesting for me is which traditions from my childhood I chose to keep. So by no means am I saying, as I talk about this topic of making new traditions, by no means am I saying throw everything away. What I'm saying is I want to be conscious. What I'm saying is I want my traditions to be loving. I want them to be supportive. I want the way I enter into everything to be holistic. I want it to be full of joy and connection and meaningful family time and relaxation. I also want my holiday times to be, my Christmas time, to be full of creating memories. So this is what matters to me. Now, I know as I'm speaking right now, you're probably already getting images, you're probably getting ideas of what you might do, of even what you have done in the past. I'll give you a for instance. One of the things I love to do is on Christmas Eve, I love to read the story in Luke chapter 2, which is the story of Jesus's birth. It's one of the stories. And of course, I have to be in minister mode and say that not all gospels even have the Jesus birth in there. So Luke 2 is the one we always hear on the Charlie Brown special every year. And it's sweet. And when I was a little kid, what we would do is we would have gone to church. And then when we got home, right before bed, my mom would gather us all together and she would open the big family Bible, which, by the way, I have now. She would open the big family Bible and we'd sit around the Bible. She would read it out loud to us and she would always cry because it meant so much to her. Then we would take we had these little candles that we could carry up the stairs. We'd light our candle, we'd carry them up the stairs, and we would go to bed in candlelight and then blow out the candle. And then when we got up the next morning, of course, Santa Claus would have come and the gifts would be there, et cetera, all that fun stuff. But there was something about that reading of the scripture as a family that was so important. And even today, like right now in this moment, if I think about it, I can literally hear my mom's voice in my head. So this is such a special tradition. I would never want to be without that. right? I would never want to be without that. That said, there were a few years where I didn't do anything like that. And so I was getting more conscious about my process and what mattered to me. That memory came up as really, really important. So, and this is what I love about, some maturing on the journey. When we're first, beginning this journey of self-awareness, what often happens is we see all the ways we weren't supported, right? We see all the ways we weren't supported, and we start to look at whose fault it is and who there is to blame and why we feel the way we feel. And for most of us, this is a feeling in our 20s and sometimes into our 30s. But usually in your early 30s, you start to take responsibility, a little bit more responsibility for your life, and you start to realize that you're an important part of the equation and that there may be work, for you to do. As we develop and as we grow, we then discover that not only are we an important part of the curriculum, that, in other words, we had choice in the matter and that our soul called forth some of these experiences, we start to realize, in fact, that we can make new choices. We can also do our forgiveness work, to release the past. And then we can think of new ways of being. We can grow into the new self we were designed to be. That said, it sounds very simple as I'm speaking about it, but there is a great deal of effort. There is a great deal of consciousness that comes with these various stages of development I'm talking about. So I don't know where you are specifically on the stage, but what I do know is if you're listening to this, you are wanting to grow, prosper, and evolve, because that's what this show is all about. That's what the entire channel Experience of the Soul is for, is to provide ways, to provide avenues for you to travel, to move into more consciousness. So this time of year, it's simply about that. This time of year, it is simply about, well, what new conscious way do I want to show up for my life and world? What new conscious way do I want to show up in my life and world? And this is a very important question. And this is a very important distinction to have, because it helps us become conscious. I've used that word a lot. Of course, it means simply to be aware, to choose. And what we're seeking to do, rather than go on autopilot, we're seeking to make conscious choices. In other words, choices that are made from the soul. And if you're new to this idea of choosing from the soul, you can think about it as making choices that are good for everyone involved, for the highest good of all. So as we're thinking about, this time of Christmas, I know some people do celebrate solstice, which is wonderful and beautiful. But as I celebrate Christmas, I'm always seeking to have a deeper experience of the Christ Spirit. And in my process, I'm always juggling between making new traditions, seeing what of the old I want to bring forward, and then also working with memories, with thoughts, with some of the flashes that come as awarenesses as we march through this, this next 30 days. I can be in a store shopping. I can be in, even in church and hearing a hymn, and I'll instantly think of when I was a kid singing in the choir, or when my brother and sister were playing the organ or the piano, or, when, my dad got up on Christmas Day and was hungover. So all of these things can flash in my mind as a memory. And then I seek to work through those in a way that's conscious and try to bring forth any healing, any learning, and just navigate through that. And what a lot of us do and I certainly have done as well, what a lot of us do is just go unconscious And instead of dealing with what's coming up, we just go buy more stuff. Because frankly, in this country, in the U.S., I'll say, in the U.S., we're addicted to buying. Now that we have a buying in one click, it's so easy to use what I lovingly and jokingly call retail therapy, because it's good for a moment, but not going forward. But many of us use retail therapy as a way to check out. So many of our listeners are in recovery. And when I say in recovery, from alcohol or drugs or, that we think of recovery usually as substance, even though there's addictions to gambling and food and everything else. One that's not talked about much is the addiction to buying and the addiction to debt. And we want to, as much as possible, stay out of that buying and debt addiction this time of year, even though it's very, very tempting. So think about, what new traditions are you being called to make? And to me, this is a fun conversation to have. I really enjoy thinking about what new traditions will support me this year. And of course, I'm saying the words new traditions, realizing that a tradition usually means something you do every year. Well, that's what you're trying on. You're seeking to figure out, is this something I want to do every year? And sometimes it's a grand experiment and you say, oh no, going on that winter hayride was a really dumb idea or something like that, right? You'll go, well, okay, that was fun, but I froze the entire time. We probably won't do that one every year. So think about that. It may be that you want to have friends over for a dinner, or friends over for a time of sharing, or doing a gift exchange in a different way. One of the cool traditions my family has done off and on over the years, my family of origin, what happens in a large family, in our case, we grew so much and there were so many kids and grandkids, and now there are great grandkids, that it's pretty impossible to make sure every single person has a gift, or every single person can buy a gift, with the expense of things and such as that. My family thought the idea of everybody getting a gift for everyone was just too much. And so for many years, what we started doing is everybody would pick one name, and then you just got, a gift or a couple gifts for that one person. So everybody knew they were getting a gift, but rather than getting gifts for everybody, you just got one gift for one person. And then with your own little, family, you had your own Christmas. So if you had kids or grandkids, you had a separate Christmas. And then the larger family, there was just one extra gift. So because in our case, when we get together, there's 25 or 30 people. So that was a great tradition as a way to make everybody feel special, but you didn't have to buy every single person a gift because that was too heavy of a lift. And I loved that tradition. I've loved doing that at work, where you get a name and it's often like a Secret Santa thing, and you give them like little gifts all month. If you're in charge of a workplace, I think it's really fun to do some kind of gift giving in the workplace, because it really does encourage connection and fun. And yeah, that's a lot of good energy. Another tradition I've practiced in my life, and we did from time to time in my family, was we would say you had to make the gift. So of course, it's a little late to do that this year since it's already December 4th, but you might think about it for next year, unless you're a really fast knitter or something like that, or you're a woodworker. But that was a really fun tradition to make the gifts, because often we would have to start making them in the summer to have everybody's gift ready by Christmas on the 25th. So it was also a great tradition because you were thinking about the person for so many months, and, you had sweat equity in the gift. It was not just, okay, let me buy you this thing that anybody could buy you. It was more thoughtful. It was more intentional, and it had your energy in it. I don't know if we quit doing that because of the busyness of the times or simply because it took a long time. But my family of origin doesn't do that anymore. But I often in my life give homemade gifts or give things like maybe a plant that I planted and, taken a cutting and grown it for someone. I love the idea of my energy being in the gift so that it has more meaning when I give it and it has more meaning when they receive it. So I don't know if any of these are settling in or you think, what you're thinking about these ideas. But I would also love to hear some of your traditions. If you haven't been communicating with us for a while, definitely let me know you can just go to CynthiaAliceAnderson.com and send me a quick email. I'd love to know what some of your traditions are and see if I might include some of your traditions in how I'm thinking about the holidays this year. One of the things I love to do, I've started doing this. I did it occasionally as a teenager, but really it's something I've started to do as an adult. And then when I had a child, it became even more fun, which is where you drive around the neighborhood and look at lights. And, there's not cell phones going off or you're not paying attention to anything else. You're just looking at lights. And that can be a really sacred time, believe it or not. Even the lights that are kind of crazy and everywhere, it's fun. It's fun. And the ones that are really sweet give you a feeling in your heart. It's so sweet. And for me, I love the time with my son, especially as he gets older. I know that I'm not going to have as much time, right? So it makes these traditions that we've done over the last many years, it makes them even more special. And of course, I don't wait till Christmas Eve to go look at lights. We often do it 2 or 3 times during the month, simply to go enjoy and be together. And it's also colder, so it's just a nice way to be together and enjoy the beauty of the holiday. So for me, this is a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun. The other thing, if you are alone for the holiday, I want to mention that I've had several friends who have said to me they have been of service somewhere on Christmas that, they were concerned about being alone or feeling kind of lonely on the holiday. And instead of doing that, they chose to go to a soup kitchen or, some place that serves the homeless or those in need so that they could be of service, so that they had a place to be and they could support people also that didn't have a place to be. I think that is a great idea and a great use of time and energy, during the holiday. I think it's a great time to remember that we're all one spiritual family, we're all one earthly family, and that, we are all connected, we are one. And so anytime we are of service, anytime we are serving another, we truly are being the hand of God, the voice of God, the presence of God for these folks. I had a friend that called it being God with skin on. People can know there's a God, but sometimes it's hard to remember if you're hungry and you have no place to live. It's hard to believe anybody loves you out there. So sometimes going to be of service, simply showing up, is the greatest gift you can be to someone. My number one goal, and we're going to talk about it more as the month goes on, but my number one goal in my spiritual journey during this time of year, my number one new tradition is trying to have a new experience of the birth of the Christ within myself. This is my number one goal. All these things I've talked about before, these are awesome things. They're fun. They're about connection. But without the deeper spiritual work of connecting with the Christ within, all the other things don't have near as much meaning. Because I see my connection with my son, my connection with my friends and congregation, my connection with my family, how I can connect with them is all a result of the emotional and spiritual work that I do to heal. I said at the very beginning, we are here to grow, prosper, and evolve, and that this is a theme that rings through everything we do. Friends, when we know the Christ lives in us, we have love for absolutely everyone. We have time, we have energy, we can give our attention where we need to give it because we know we are fueled by this Christ presence, this Christ energy, and this Christ love. So as you go forward during this holiday, I want you to think about, yes, can I make some new traditions? Can I make some new traditions? And as you do that, as you make your new traditions, also ask yourself, as you're becoming conscious, are there any of the old traditions that I know I want to, I don't know, the word that's coming to mind is reinstitute or, begin to practice again some of those sweet traditions that were meaningful from childhood. So remembering that we don't have to necessarily start everything brand new to grow, prosper, and evolve. But there's a saying in recovery rooms that I love, which is take what you like and leave the rest. And as I look back on my own journey, I really enjoy doing this. The pieces that, were unhealed or the pieces that were difficult, well, we work through those the best we can. But usually we can see it wasn't all bad. Usually we can see there are gifts of the past. And so we bring those forward. That's the connection. And then we decide for myself, for my family, for my loved ones, what new traditions do I want to bring in to bring love and connection and support? And then always asking, how can I be of service? How can I be of service? Some of us may serve throughout the month, some of us on Christmas Day, some of us, we may serve our family. But simply asking that question, how can I be of service? And then finally, am I having a real experience of the Christ this year? Am I making room in my mind, in my thoughts, in my beliefs, in my habits? Am I making room for the Christ energy? Is there room at the end in my own consciousness, right? So this is our goal, dear friends, to continue to do this work in consciousness, to continue to seek to live a spiritual life. As we grow, prosper, and evolve, that goal is to live from the center, which is to live from this higher consciousness, this higher space called the Christ, the place that Jesus was so perfectly aligned with, Jesus the Christ, who showed us the way. It is this month that we share and celebrate the birth of the Christ, knowing that it was a time of hope, of renewal, of celebration, of the good news of humanity. So what I hope for all of us is we can begin to know this presence in a real way during this holiday. So rather this holiday being about buying things and running around crazy, I'd love for this holiday to be about you having a beautiful spiritual experience where you bring the old and make some new and serve and do all of this from the Christ Spirit. This is my hope for you. This is my goal for myself. And I hope you'll join me in it, dear friends. So I appreciate you. We love you. We bless you. As always, we're grateful for your support. We thank you so much that the financial support has come in. We are absolutely staying on the air for several more months due to the wonderful financial contributions, and we welcome those at any time. Of course, if you do give a gift, it is a 501c3, and you will certainly get an email honoring your gift and a follow-up from me. So thank you, dear friend, for joining us. As always, we love you, we bless you, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2023 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.